Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm talking about Mars conjunct Pluto in Synastry. Dun dun dun. This is a big one. This is probably one of the most intense aspects that you could have in Synastry. It can be quite frightening, but it can also be very liberating and very healing. Because of the conjunction, it's equally as difficult as it could be beneficial. It kind of just depends on the rest of the aspects that are going on in the synastry and also the natal charts, the natal potentials, right? This is classically one of the aspects that could show violence. Mars-Pluto aspects, specifically the conjunction and the hard aspects, can definitely show physical violence at times, if not other, emotional violence as well, because there are going to be themes of power and powerlessness come up in this relationship. It's definitely a karmic connection. It's definitely an aspect that when you see it, you can know that the individuals are working out some kind of past life karma, especially if it's a double whammy aspect. It can definitely show that there is some past life karma of either, yeah, physical violence, abuse of power. Um, like you could joke about it that, like, well, you killed each other in a past life, but like maybe you did. Maybe you should get a past life regression hypnosis and see just exactly what happened here, who killed who, because someone did, or something along those lines could be shown. Of course, not in all cases, but in some cases, for sure, there's some heavy karma like that. Um, Usually, though, in this lifetime, the Pluto person will wield more of the power and control in the emotional sense, or even in a financial sense in some cases. And the Mars person can be very physically threatening to the Pluto person. Maybe the Mars person is actually physically stronger, and so the Pluto person feels like they need to resort to other methods of control if they're naturally like a controlling person in their natal, like, because you have to look at the natal charts, right? Like two very subdued Neptunian personalities getting this conjunction, you're just going to get a ton of sexual passion and connection and transformation. But two people that have a predisposition for violence, or selfishness or psychopathy, like that is where things are going to get ugly with this aspect. So, yeah, the Mars person can be seen by the Pluto person as someone who's very physically strong, or they can both see each other as very powerful and very sexy. Um, Even, yeah, like that could be one of the things that draw them together is that their physical body strength. Like there's a lot of respect and noticing each other for those physical qualities, those dominant qualities, those masculine qualities. And the Mars person, even if the Mars person is a woman, it's like the Pluto person sees her body as an asset or a strength, or like sees her as physically like worthy of his control or devotion, really. It depends on, there could be other things going on that will show more devotion. This isn't really a heartwarming aspect. This isn't really a loving aspect in at all. It's actually, when we have these two planets, it's a more cold approach. It can be very heated because it's very sexual, but it's sexual in the masculine sense of Pluto and Mars. It can be more impersonal, So we could also see with this aspect people using each other for their physical body. Now, that's not always going to be the case, but in some cases it will be, depending on the rest of the synastry too. So there's definitely a very physical primal attraction, which is probably one of the best qualities of this aspect, is just how sexual it is, how passionate it is, how really the Pluto person is the Mars person's type sexually. Like the level of turned on that the Mars person can feel towards Pluto, it's like yeah, it's just like the right fit. Like the Pluto person is really like the higher aspect of Mars's energy, because when you think about it, like Pluto in a traditional astrology, sorry, rules over Scorpio, which is co-ruled by Mars. So there's a lot of physical attraction, and the Mars person feeling like the Pluto person really is it for them, right? And the Pluto person really feels like the Mars person is powerful, and they could even be a little bit jealous of their sexuality. Like maybe the Mars person is a little bit more flirty or a little bit more like open and expressive of their sexuality, and the Pluto person can be insanely jealous of that. Um, but if the Pluto person is at a more, higher level of involvement, they're going to just have a lot of respect for the Mars person's sexuality and their strength, their physical strength. So yeah, at a higher level, they both have a lot of respect for each other's power and strength and sexuality. And so this is definitely a power couple aspect. They will be forced to undergo transformations. Specifically, Mars is going to learn from being with Pluto how to even better harness their Mars energy. They could become a powerhouse, with Pluto's like laser focus on their Mars. They can really hone in on their Mars energy and like start operating it from like a godlike level or like a higher level. Like the Pluto person can really mature the Mars person, and help them materially, financially, physically, sexually. The Mars person really is forced to undergo a transformation. Now, in the more negative cases, the transformation is not beneficial to them. Like the Mars person is either physically beaten down or abused or manipulated or hurt, or, their power can be seemingly taken from them by Pluto. So that's the other manifestation. And so that's how, this can show up in a toxic relationship or a marriage that's, very traumatic and, yeah, detrimental to both people, is that the Pluto person can either give Mars power or take it away. And it just sort of depends on where they're at with their own Pluto, and where they're at with the karmic cycle of this. Like, are we going to continue to hurt each other in this lifetime, or are we going to build each other up, right? And then the Mars person really awakens in the Pluto person. More power to them to transform that Pluto wound. So you want to look at the Pluto sign, the Pluto house placement, and Mars is really awakening that for Pluto. And that it can actually be a bit terrifying for the Pluto person. Like that can actually feel scary, to have someone's Mars, which is their power, their energy, their strength, their sexuality, their masculine energy, conjunct to our Pluto. It can be like, ooh, like, yeah, there's electricity here. It can be very vulnerable. It can be, if the Pluto person does not want to look at that, they can attack the Mars person. So that can be very uncomfortable, but also it's very magnetic, because I really believe the Pluto placement and the sign of Pluto is a big part of like the chunk of like emotional stuff that we're here to look at in this lifetime. Kind of like the generational patterns we're here to heal, like the wound of the soul is a part of Pluto, right? And so when someone's Mars is there, we have no choice but to look at that. And we might not want to look at that, but because this is a conjunction, we're forced to look at that. And so the Pluto person can end up becoming even more powerful, even more secure. Like they can really undergo a transformation, kind of like the scorpionic transformation, to the phoenix. And that can be incredibly valuable. So, at the highest level, both people in this relationship are totally transformed. It's one of those connections, like I said about the Sun Pluto conjunction I did yesterday, where your life before this relationship and after this relationship is like two totally different lives. And in this situation, though, it's more to do with, yeah, personal power and power issues, power struggles that are going to come up here. So it's definitely karmic, significant, soul encompassing, highly sexual and passionate, unforgettable. And ideally, you're going to mix this in with some loving contacts, like a moon Venus or something like that. Because, yeah, like I said, this in itself is not a warm interaction. It can be more cold and more just primal, like warlike almost. It's kind of like warlike. So maybe you had a past lifetime in a war together or something like that when you see this conjunction in Synastry. It's kind of like if you're in the army, like the general and then like the soldier, like that's kind of what it seems like. So not the warmest of interactions, but very, very deep, very intense, and very activating. So that's really the higher purpose of this connection, is to have this reactivation or integration of our power, our strength, and our primal sexual energy with this one. So yeah, I'd love to know your experience of this aspect. Was it like this? Was it not like this? Let me know in the comments, you guys. And yeah, keep your requests coming, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.